Hello everyone and welcome to Around the ICC. I'm your host Matteo Bonetti, and this week we'll take a look back at what's gone on in the top 5 European leagues. I'll give you my latest transfer rumor analysis, and we'll have the best 11 of players who play for teams that risk getting relegated this season. The shock of the weekend came with Sam Allardyce. His West Brom, who are fighting for salvation, showed us what total football looks like in 2021 by putting 5 goals past Chelsea, which won't help Thomas Tuchel's side in their hopes of maintaining 4th spot. Elsewhere, Liverpool beat Arsenal by 3-0 with a brace coming from Diogo Jota, who's been brilliant when healthy this season. He's already scored 8 goals in only 13 matches, and around half of those games coming from the starting lineup. His goals helped Liverpool go only 2 points away from 4th place. And finally, Manchester City extended their lead at the top of the Premier League table by winning 2-0 against Leicester City. That title race is done and dusted. In Serie A, Inter have all but wrapped up the Scudetto, not mathematically, but realistically. The Nerazzurri's 1-0 win against Bologna mean that they now have an 8-point lead over second-place Milan, and they also have a game in hand as well. More disappointingly, though, the two quote-unquote title challengers, Milan and Juventus, both drew against teams they should have beaten, meaning that the storyline now is this: Juve and Milan need to look in the rearview mirror because those Champions League spots are all up for grabs. I'd go as far as saying that Inter's the only side that is 100% guaranteed to finish in the top 4, and what a colossal failure it would be if Juventus, after winning 9 straight league titles, were to finish outside of the top 4 under manager Andrea Pirlo, who rightfully so is receiving plenty of criticism in recent days. Speaking of titles nearly wrapped up, Bayern Munich scored a huge 1-0 win against RB Leipzig, putting their title hopes alive and well at the top of the Bundesliga table by 7 points, with the lone goal coming from Leon Goretzka. While Leipzig has had a brilliant season under Julian Nagelsmann, the lack of a volume goal scorer up front, I think, is what's really hurt them after the departure of Timo Werner. They simply did not have the killer instinct up front to compete with a team like Bayern Munich. In Spanish football, Real Sociedad won the Copa del Rey in a historic all-Basque derby against Athletic Club. This was the club's first major trophy in 35 years, which prompted the club manager Imanol to dance and sing at the post-match press conference, something that I'm fully condoning, and I actually hope that we see more from managers after a big win. You could really feel the passion. But let's move over from Copa del Rey to La Liga, where the title race goes on for another week, as Real Madrid, who are now undefeated in their last 11 matches, won against Eibar with goals coming from Asensio and Benzema. I-Liga and I-Liga even more because Atletico Madrid lost over the weekend, and Barcelona is still very much in the title hunt as well. So 3 teams fighting for that La Liga race. All right, it's transfer news time, and let's start with Erling Haaland's future, which seems to be in doubt depending on where Borussia Dortmund finish in the Bundesliga table. Now, the latest reports say that although Borussia Dortmund will try to keep the striker at all costs, his agent Mino Raiola has begun the first stages of chats with some of the top clubs, and it's hard to imagine a striker of his immense quality staying at a club that may not play Champions League football next season. While Dortmund was a wise decision for Haaland, I'd say, to get consistent playing time and making that jump from Austrian football to the Bundesliga, his performances so far have been so dominant that it's really hard to imagine any club in Europe not starting Haaland regularly. Elsewhere, with Manchester City announcing that their star striker Kun Agüero is leaving at the end of the season, it's brought up all sorts of crazy transfer rumors about where he'll go next. Personally, I'd love to see him go to Serie A, a league where strikers in their 30s have really thrived recently and has allowed some big names to extend that tail end of their prime. Juventus, to me, looks like a great fit. They need a volume goal scorer, and Kun Agüero would start there, I think, ahead of Alvaro Morata. This is assuming if Juventus hold on to Morata, but Agüero would give them that added danger up front, that good link-up as well, assuming, once again, there's a lot of assumptions here, that it is going to be Cristiano Ronaldo to stick around for another season. Let's move on to our final transfer rumor, and it is Christian Pulisic, who has either been injured or not consistently in the lineup this season, and he's been linked with a move to Bayern Munich. Now, this kind of makes sense when you take a look at his past. Pulisic is no stranger to the Bundesliga. It's where he broke out with Borussia Dortmund, so the move to go back to a league where he knows very well and has succeeded in makes perfect sense for the US international. There's no memory I like more than reminiscing on ICC memories, and today we'll take a look back at Joe Willock's goal that he scored for Arsenal against Fiorentina back in 2019. Why Joe Willock, you ask? It's a great question. Over the weekend, it was Joe Willock who scored the equalizer for Newcastle United in the 85th minute against Tottenham, which prevented Spurs from reaching 4th place. And because of this 2-2 result, Jose Mourinho's side is still 2 points from that all-important top 4 spot to reach Champions League. This week's top 11 is going to be a little bit different from the past, as I'll be focusing on my best lineup from teams that are currently fighting for salvation in the top European leagues. Now, I'll only be using, let's say, the top 3 to 4 teams in each league, so here we go. It should be interesting. Starting in goal, it's Fulham's Alphonse Areola, who once upon a time was the starter for a title-winning PSG. The backline has the attacking right back Pablo Maffeo of Huesca, Danish center-back Joachim Andersen, who's on loan at Fulham from Lyon. He joins Diego Godin of Cagliari. Yes, Diego Godin, the same guy who once upon a time scored a huge header for Atletico Madrid to win La Liga. And finally, the young dynamic Wilfried Singo of Torino rounds out my fullbacks. Let's move on to the midfield, and it's West Brom's Mateus Pereira, who scored 7 goals and provided a bunch of assists this season, while João Pedro of Cagliari is actually the highest goal-scoring Brazilian in the top 5 European leagues in the last 2 years, scoring 18 goals last season and 13 so far in this campaign. My other midfielder is going to be Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who's at Fulham after spending his whole career at Chelsea, a player that I really liked, but hasn't exactly showcased his potential consistently. Let's move on to the front line. A lot of goals here, especially from teams that are fighting to stay in the top flight. Torino's Andrea Bellotti, who once upon a time was rumored to be a €100 million signing, has already banged in 11 goals this season, while bottom of the table in Serie A Crotone have a long, wiry 6'6" striker named Simi Nwanko, who has banged in 8 goals, in his last 5 Serie A games, making it 15 for the campaign. He's not even that far away from the likes of Romelu Lukaku and Cristiano Ronaldo. And finally, I've got to pick one of my favorite players who I covered a lot when he was in Ligue 1, Alain Saint-Maximin of Newcastle, who's always entertaining. Sometimes the end product isn't there, but I love watching his dribbles, and he rounds out my front line. Now, you might be asking, why are you doing an all relegation 11? And the point of this lineup is, if these teams do go down, expect most of these players, I'd say, to find a new club in the top flight in Europe. All right, well, thanks so much for joining us here on Around the ICC. I'm Matteo Bonetti. You can follow me at Bonetti on Twitter, and do check out the new feature on internationalchampionscup.com, where you can now go and see all live scores of all the top games across the European leagues. And also make sure to follow the ICC at Int Champions Cup on Twitter and at International Champions Cup on both Facebook and Instagram. I'll see you guys next week.